Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. In the last part, we ventured around Gerudo's fortress rescuing the carpenters in the process, and we got ourselves the Gerudo membership card in the process. So now, you can completely wander around Gerudo's fortress without a worry of being thrown into the jail cell up top. I believe you can also now just talk to any of the Gerudo guards. They'll each have their thing to say. It's essentially a town just without all the towny things. There's no shops or anything. And now we're going to go around and grab some items we can while we're here before heading on to our next destination, which is the haunted Wasteland just to the west of us. Now, something I brought up last part, but I should go a bit more into, is that, if I recall correctly at least, I seldom go back to Gerudo Valley after this point in the game. If you head back to Gerudo Valley itself, once you've rescued all 4 carpenters, the bridge is fixed. You don't need to use the opponent to jump anymore. But now, in their tent, not only can you talk to them, but the running man from the mask quest is now there. And if you talk to him, you can initiate a race with him, where you have to race to the bridge to the Lost Woods. With that said, you can never beat him. It's been proven through hacking, he'll always claim to have beaten you by exactly 1 second. Also, this is one of the few heart pieces in the game. You can reach him one of 2 ways. As you can either use the hook shot or long shot, depending on where you are in the game. You just need to make sure you have the hook shot. Scarecrow song, rather. Now, going back to the race, there is at least some amount of purpose to this, as if you check your house, not only do you have the cow from doing the Malin thing now, but somewhere in your house, your time for getting to the Lost Woods is marked. Okay. Supposedly, there may have been early versions of the game prior to release where you could beat him, and they just decided to not. I'm imagining because it was probably too precise of a maneuver to pull for completion. But we have no way of knowing because we both know a lot about this game in development and a little. We know a lot about some of the plot stuff and item usage. For instance, we know that at one point this game was going to be in completely first person, but then they decided not to. I think Miyamoto decided in particular not to. And otherwise. Now, it's time for probably the second most in-depth side quest in here. We can talk to this girl on top of Epona. Hey, newcomer, you have a fine horse. I don't know where you stole it from, but... okay, how about challenging this horseback archery? Once the horse starts galloping, shoot the targets with your arrows. Let's see how many points you can score. You get 20 arrows. If you can score 1,000 points, I'll give you something good. Do you want to try again for 20 rupees? I don't know what she says again, I haven't tried it yet. Welcome to horseback archery, potentially the hardest minigame in the game. We have a lot of precision with not many arrows. The pots are each worth 100 points, so you can get an easy, I think that's 700 points just like that. But after that, you have to rely on the targets. There's 3 on the wall you start next to, as well as 1 here at the end you can hit, I believe, both ends of. The center of each target counts as 100 points. The outer rim, about 30. The inner rim, about 60. Precision is the most important factor here. But in the case that you're getting close to the score you need anyway, 3 things of 60 is worth more than 1 thing of 100. So if you have to mash fire towards the end, don't worry. Fantastic! You're the ultimate master. I'll give you this item. Once you have this equipment, the only thing left to improve is yourself. And we get a piece of heart, the second one in the area. But we can immediately do the horseback archery again, but you need to be on Epona to do this, which I've never liked. Come on, she's right there. Can't you just say, oh, there's your horse. You want to do it again? Sure. But now we need to break 1,500 points, and this is a much more precise goal. As you need to get not only probably all 7 of the pots, but I'd say at least 2 or 3 actual bullseyes to get any chance of getting the 1,500. From there, you just need to hope you get a lot of 60s, I'd say. This is precise. It's probably the hardest minigame in the game. And the closest thing that Majora's Mask has to something this precise is getting the biggest quiver from the Octorok shooting minigame, which has similar problems, but also different problems, as if you learn the game well enough, you can just learn how much to move the control stick to reach the 3 different parts of that minigame. Whereas with this, yeah, you're constantly moving, which is annoying. But that said, 1,500 is just a war of attrition. I'll be darned! You're a true master! I'll give you an item suitable for a master. This quiver is very important to me. I want you to have it. take good care of it, okay? And we get the biggest quiver. You can now carry even more arrows to a maximum of 50. I want to say that's all of our ammo capacities maxed out, up from the top of my head, at least. So with that, our business in Gerudo's fortress is technically done. You remember how I mentioned that there was one Skulltula I was saving for later? There's also one Skulltula I miss, at least for a wit. At night, on the, I think, northern target and the archery course, all the way at the top right of the map, there is a Skulltula on the back of that. And I do grab it, just not until after the next dungeon. Whoops. Ah, well. It's not like I missed it and had to go back and record the LP afterwards. No, I get everything as we go through. But I'm just telling you that now, so that you can technically have one more Skulltula up for a bit. Hey, rookie. You going into the desert? I'll open this gate for you, but you can't cross the desert unless you pass the 2 trials. The first trial is the River of the Sand. You can't walk across this river. After you cross it, follow the flags we place there. The second trial is the Phantom Guide. Those without eyes that can see the truth will only find themselves returning here. You're going anyway, aren't you? I won't stop you. Go ahead. Now, you can do Gerudo's Fortress, I think, as long as you have the hookshot and the bow. Or at least with the hookshot. I don't think you technically need the bow, it's just recommended. However, they don't want you doing things in too out of an order. So they want you to at least have either the long shot or the hover boots for this next section. As well as the Lens of Truth, just so you can be somewhat railroaded. With that said, it's not necessary for you to have all 3 of those items, technically. As the River of Sand is just a giant ravine in the sand. You can either long shot over to the crates across the way, or you can use the hover boots to roll across this ravine and get more or less all the way there. At least that's what I remember the Prima games I got recommending. And from here we want to follow the flags for a bit, so we can get to the second part. But there is notably this thing. All those I didn't read that sign, but oh well. This is the carpet merchant. This guy sells bomb shoes at an extraordinarily exorbitant price. It's not worth it ever. The only time this character model has ever done anything for me is in Majora's Mask and the sword training. I think he might sell you other things, but he always puts them up for ridiculous prices, like 200 rupees for only a few bomb shoes. Nah, not happening. Never. And something I do find relatively interesting about this place is that, if I recall correctly, the coding of this place was heavily reused in Majora's Mask for the undersea area. If you stray too far from the flags or from the path that's eventually going to be set up before us, you do get lost wooded, so to speak, back to the entrance of the area. So make sure to look out and hopefully see the flags. I recommend you to have the game in daytime, by the way, for this segment, as I find it's easier to see the flags in the sandstorm. Now, before we continue on, in this little structure in the middle of the desert, we can head down below to find another gold Skulltula, as well as some torches to light that I think drops a chest that has, I think, rupees in it or something like that. Fire arrows are going to be more worthwhile, by the way, for your magic rather than Din's Fire moving forward, as Din's Fire takes quite a bit more per firing than even 2 or even maybe 3 fire arrows. Yeah, just rupees. Not needed, but it was right there, so I might as well. Now, the Phantom Guide part of the Haunted Wasteland is why it's called the Haunted Wasteland. When we get to the top of this building and you use the Lens of Truth, it'll spawn a Poe that'll only be visible with the Lens of Truth. And you need to follow its path precisely, otherwise you're going to get lost wooded again back to the entrance of the area. I'll be your guide on your way, but coming back I won't play. I'll show you the only way to go, so follow me and don't be slow. With that said, similarly to Lost Woods and the flags, you can technically get through without this and the Lens of Truth. The path that the Poe takes is always set. It's just that it's guiding you along a very specific pathway that gets you through a series of triggers that allow the next area to load, essentially. So, if you play your cards right and know the pathway, I believe you can get through this without the Lens of Truth. I don't know why you would, because honestly, it's not even that long of a trek. But oh well. The biggest mix-up is that they take this alternate path that leads us backwards a little bit to make sure you load the correct flags correctly. Majora's Mask definitely reused this coding with the seahorses. Mind you, it's like Majora's Mask is the equivalent of an expertly done ROM hack. With better everything. In my opinion, at least. And once we complete that, we're in the next area. Welcome to the Desert Colossus, the final sand area, and notably, the sand here, you sink into it a little bit if you stand still. It's not like a trap or anything, you don't take damage, but it does slow down your initial walking speed a bit. Also, these are levers, these are classic Zelda enemies, and if you kill enough of them, eventually, a giant purple one comes up, and I think if you kill that, not only does it stop levers from spawning for the rest of the time you're there, or at least for a good while, it also drops a serious amount of rupees. And that's the Triforce Sigil, and that's a pedestal over there. I wonder if that means this is the next dungeon. Oh, shock and awe, it's the next dungeon. And there is not much we can do here. There's a hole up there we can't do anything with. There's a cubby over there that you can crawl into, but Adult Link can't crawl for some reason. And while it looks like we can push and pull this block, it's way too big for our puny muscles. Oh, God. And something I didn't know for a long while is that you might notice there's these weird cobra-like structures in the corners. You can investigate these for hints of what to do. So let's see what they have to say. If you want to proceed to the past, you should return here with the pure heart of a child. So be Child Link. Gotcha. If you want to travel to the future, you should return here with the power of the silver from the past. Get something silver. Gotcha. That's not the silver scale. Even more gotcha. So we just have to leave. Oh well. Jeez, buddy, your legs have got to be in pain after that one. Past, present, future. The Master Sword is a ship with which you can sail upstream and downstream through Time's river. The port for that ship is in the Temple of Time. To restore the Desert Colossus and enter the Spirit Temple, you must travel back through Time's flow. Listen to this Requiem of Spirits. This melody will lead a child back to the desert. You have learned the Requiem of Spirits. Thankfully not related to Alien vs. Predator Requiem at all. So, how you doing, buddy? Ah, sand! Ugh, it's rough. Coarse, irritating. Gets everywhere. Also, I'd like to note, why was Kipora Gabra playing the part of Clockwork from Sly 1 there? So, as Sheik just plainly told us, essentially, we need to return back to being Child Link and then use the Requiem of Spirit to get back here. I will, as necessary, be speeding up this process, as going back in time from Child to Adult Link and warping back is like a 30-second process, and that's too much video time I could use on something else, you know? Also, I do love teleporting into here as Child Link, just with that. That's such a good teleport sound just to come in with the beginning of Gyarados Valley. Now, with that said, as you might notice, we still have, like, 5 minutes left, even though we're about to technically enter the dungeon. That's because we're not going into the dungeon this part. There's a couple of mini-quests we can do around the Desert Colossus in order to get some extra completion and items. For instance, the final patch of soft soil in the game is here, which means the final use of our good old friends, the bugs. Thank you, bugs. You've helped me so much. And I'm also got to plant the last magic bean, as well as get the last soft soil Skulltula. Now, I can't help but wonder, just given the size of the Desert Colossus, if this place is related at all to the Arbiter's Grounds in Twilight Princess. What if there's ever been a theory about that? With that said, we're immediately going back to Adult Link, as I want to get the items that I can get in that area as Adult Link now, as while most of them you can get, or at least one of them you can also get while being Child Link, I'd rather have the Skulltulas as well as the heart piece that's in this area first. And 2 of those do all involve the magic bean plants, as across its path you are taken all over the Desert Colossus, and in particular you go towards the rocks on the south and northern part, as well as the arc that Sheik just jumped from a moment ago. On the northern rock, there is the next Skulltula. Oh god, oh Jesus, that was close. There is the Skulltula. But additionally, on the top of the rock lies our final heart piece in the game, number 36 of 36, if I'm recalling the numbers correctly. What do you mean I've been editing this LP in 5-part spurts so I know the number off the top of my head and I'm just playing the part of the guy who's never played the game before? What are you talking about? With that said, this bean plant does pull a bit of a sudden move there when it tries to go under then over. I have missed this and had to wait for the bean plant to go around again more times than I'd like to admit. Next up, towards the southern region of the Desert Colossus, there is an oasis that has no water in it. You can play the Sun Song, or not the Sun Song, the Song of Storms while next to it, in order to not only fill it with water, but to make it an impromptu fairies fountain. One that you have to replenish every time you warp back here, yes, but it's a very quick and easy bunch of fairies to get to. But the more important thing is the trees around the oasis to me. As you can just barely hear it now, and there it is right there on that tree. The final gold Skulltula for this area itself is right there. And turned day, so I have to wait for it to become night again, which sucks. Oh, that's a Deku Nut up there. I don't think I've ever noticed that. Next up, and I'm going to do a minor jump cut just to save on some time here. On the northeastern end of the Desert Colossus area, as adult or child link, there is a crack in the wall over here. This was an area that I had trouble finding for the longest time, and I don't exactly know why. It's weird. I read the strategy guide a lot as a kid, but I was very stubborn about actually paying attention to the text. I just like the pretty pictures. And here we have our next Great Fairies Fountain. It's been a while since we've seen one of these, since the Fire Temple, if I'm recalling correctly. Let's see what we get for this one. Welcome, Link. I'm the Great Fairy of Magic. I'll give you a magic spell. Please take it. You got Nehru's Love. Cast this to create a powerful protective barrier. It's a defensive magic you can use with C. Nehru's Love is in effect for only a limited time, so use it carefully. When battle has made you wary, please come back and see me. This is a really good item, despite us getting it so late. It makes you essentially invincible for a large amount of your magic bar for a short period of time. Wind Waker would have a similar item to this that you got for, I think, doing the entire sort of trade quest in Windfall Island. I'm going to be using this particularly in the next dungeon for its mini-boss, as that thing will wreck your shit if you're not being careful. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 31, we're starting off the final main temple in the game. See you guys then.